out later on. You also be able to want to see things from his viewpoint. Try to pretend you are your enemy. Try to pretend you are in his culture. Then how does he think? Because then you start discerning his weaknesses, his strength, and the kind of things he's doing. You just say, well, this is the way it is. We're doing the best we can. You're going to make a lot of luck. We call mirror imaging. That's one of the bad things we did during Vietnam. After all, we Americans, with all our technology, are far superior to the Vietnamese. We do what we are doing. They're a bunch of goddamn jungle bunnies to help. I'm over-dramatizing, but I'm really trying to bring that point home. Very important. In fact, I heard a guy the other day say, if you really think about Vietnam, we not only didn't know our adversary, we didn't even know ourselves. Okay, then this you'll see very often in this statement. Shape enemy's perception, or shape his view of the world. So you can manipulate his plans, his actions, his strategies, his tactics. Now, he doesn't say it directly. He's always talking about shaping his adversary, not being shaped by him, but if you glue it all together, he's talking about really shaping his perception so he can influence his plans and actions. Obviously not to his advantage. Likewise, he doesn't want to become shaped because then he's going to have problems. Very important. And then the third goal, attack enemy's plans as best policy, or attack his strategy as best policy. Now, when I briefed this a few years ago in the Pentagon, this was an assistant secretary level guy said, well, how can you do that if you don't have his plan? The guy didn't even understand the science. So it's very simple. As remember, if you get inside his system, understand what he's going to do, then in a very general sense, and you keep moving about, what's going to happen? You begin to shape him. He starts drawing up plans that are not useful in the unfolding situation. So if you don't even know the exact plan, they're useless. So in that sense, you have attacked this. You have attacked this plan. Maybe not directly, but indirectly. You don't have to have it. If you get him, great. If he finds out, not so good. But you don't have to have them. Next best disrupt is alliance. Of course, we've all heard that before, like Julius Caesar, divide and conquer. In other words, split them up, so they can't work together, then use a large fraction of your strength against a small fraction of his. Another variation of strength against weakness. Next best, attack his army. Note that, third best. In any case, before you attack his army, you want to do all the preceding. Because you want to place that army in a weakened condition so when you hit it, it comes unglued. And then last of all, he says attack cities only when there's no alternative. And you have some very vivid descriptions there why you don't want to do that. You can avoid it. They have to do it. And guess what? It's as true today as it was in his day. The only thing different is the instruments we use. Still true. Talk any infantry. City fighting is tough. And then, finally, this point. Employ Chang and Chi maneuvers as a basis to pump your strength into his weakness and do it over and over again. So it raises a rather interesting question. What the hell is Chang and Chi maneuver? So how many people here saw the movie Pat? You recall, there were two instances there where he said, hold him by the nose and kick him in the rear. His language is a little bit more colorful, but basically that's what he's referring to. Now you can think of holding him by the nose as being related to Chang, and the kick him in the rear as being related to Chi. Now let me broaden the notion. Think of the Chang as being the direct, the Chi as being the indirect. Or think of the Chang as being the expected, the Chi as being the unexpected. Or think of the Chang as being the obvious, the Chi as being the hidden. You can lay out all various combinations. So in a sense what you're saying, the Chang, you're using the Chang to get to expose his vulnerability weakness to your Chi so you can dive into them and pull them apart. In other words, it's kind of in a mental sense, it's a form of combined arms. You do one thing to get him to expose his vulnerability weakness to another thing, and then you exploit it to the nth degree. You do it morally, mentally, physically. So it gives you the basic. The Chang is to try to be able to find out what those vulnerabilities and weaknesses are so that they exploit it with your Chi. And you change it back and forth. In any case, what was his desired outcome? Note the first quote. You want to win the whole 9 yards without fighting. So do anything without fighting. In any event, if you do have to fight or go to war, try to at least to avoid a protracted war. So here we see sort of the ideas of philosophy of Sun Tzu, and they're as good today as they were in his day. So, rather a timeless kind of philosophy. With that in mind then, which one? Let's, for a historical fact, let's look at some early commanders. Here we see, I just have words like Alexander the Great, roughly around 300 BC, Hannibal roughly 200 BC. Belisarius, Byzantine commander, roughly around 500 AD. Genghis Khan around 1200, Tamerlane around 1400 AD. And what's my point? All these commanders seem consistent with the ideas of Sun Tzu in one way or the other. But there was a difference between them. The Western commanders I indicate here were more directly concerned with winning the battle, whereas the Eastern commanders were trying to get their adversary all pulled apart before they could hit the army so it come totally unglued. So in that sense, the Eastern commanders were more closely attuned to the ideas of Sun Tzu. Where here in the front specifically, Genghis Khan and Tamerlane. Remember, they had access to Sun Tzu. All right, there is some suspicion Belisarius may have had to conflict. In any case, all of them, one way or another, also playing this chain Fiat. Dazzle them here, hose them here. Got to get the dazzle first, so you set them up with the vulnerability. Because the vulnerability, the dazzle can create the vulnerability. And of course, that's the point. Okay, with that in mind, these Cheng Chi notions seem to be rather important. So it leads me to this following comment. Since these seem to be important, I want to give you a little bit of feel for what they mean. First in a tactical sense, and next in a battle or grand tactical sense. So let's look at some early notions of what we call that play upon tactics. And what we see here, we call about an early tactical theme. In which, the only reason why the date's truncated 300 BC to 1400 AD because these weapons start going out around 1400. And you had two kinds of troops, light troops and heavy troops. I'll let you read it, then I'll comment. Note here, the light troops, how they protect in this statement here. I got the light troops in one sense act as the chain for the heavy troops chi and vice versa. In other words, the light troops get the guys set up so the heavy troops can pull them apart or vice versa. You see these things unfold. So the intent is quite clear. You can maneuver agilize the light troops for pounding the heavy troops. So the basic idea behind what today we call combined arms, complementary arms, is use one arm. And the guy, in order to defend against that one arm, makes himself vulnerable to the other arm. If he tries to defend against the other arm, he makes himself vulnerable to this arm. So you set your combined arms up such that if he tries to work against one, he's vulnerable to the other one. That's what you do. That's why you don't get work through three tanks here. Try to work against one, weak against another. Once again, that's big. Okay, with that in mind, let's look at some early battles. Make some comments on. These are typical schematics you see in military books like at West Point and other places. And here we see the Battle of Marathon. They indicate roughly 490 BC. Idealized schematic. What you see here, the Greeks with the thinned out center and heavy wings going against the Persians about number and very uniform array here. The Greeks came down the hill, the center was thrown back, the wings closed in. The Persians, in order to fight the wings, had to change their formation. They're all tightened up. You can imagine they're all glued in there and trying to change the formation. What's happening? It generates what? Confusion disorder. Came unglued. Exactly right. So here, all you have here is an early indication of what I call a double envelop, or double out of flanking scheme. You can see it. I want you to keep that in mind. It's the only thing I want you to remember. That's just an idealized schematic. Another early schematic. The Battle of Luther, 371 BC, in which we have at the top here the Spartans, roughly around 11,000 in this rather uniform array. And at the bottom here we have the Thebans under their commander Epaminondas, in which he headed up his left, thinned out his center and pulled it to refuse his back, thinned out his right flank, pulled it back, or refused to even further with the screen troops in between. It was around 7,000, 11 versus 7. In any case, at the point of action, though, he had what? A greater fraction of his strength than his adversary won a fantastic victory. And he rolled up. The Pentagon, good call it. Good slip. The Spartan line there. Roll up the Spartan line. So here you see a good example of a single envelop or single out flanking scheme. That's all I want you to remember. How many of you people have read A Little Heart? Books like that. Remember, he uses battle in a very eloquent way. He talks about the blank order, and you want to be able to display or possess obliquity in battle. Well, you can't store that scheme in your head. That's not going to help you. There is an interesting notion associated with that, which others noticed, and I lifted this right out of a Soviet book, translation of the Soviet book, Basic Principles of Operational Tactics. About the Battle of Luther, we're talking about Engels, of Marx and Engels' faith. He understood the significance of it. In other words, an unequal distribution of forces across the front. I'm going to point that later on. It's a very important idea, unequal distribution, in order to gain leverage against. Very important idea. As a matter of fact, Sun Tzu understood. You people read Sun Tzu, he said it differently, but the same idea. He said, he who prepares and reinforces everywhere is everywhere weak. That applies unequal distribution. He who prepares and reinforces everywhere is everywhere weak. Frederick the Great later on said, he who defends everywhere defends nowhere. And when we come forward, you'll see that. Very important to your activities. Matter of fact, I'll preempt myself here. Napoleon, one time, related to the same idea. Napoleon, one time, why he had his marshals construct a defense of France. And it was his time to review it. He looked at it. He saw all these guys strung out along the border. And he said, what are you trying to do? Stop smuggling? Same idea. They're trying to defend it. Okay. We're going to come back to this. I just want to make that point. Now let's look at two more battles and we'll fold up. Battle of Arbela, or probably more appropriately called Gauzinet, in which we have the Persians under Darius and the Greeks under Alexander. The Persians outnumbered Alexander. Alexander brought his weight over here to the Persian left or toward his right. And it began to make his advance. The Persians then saw weakness in the Alexander's front, sent some of their troops in here, and that left a gap in their front. Alexander adjusted his stroke and went for that gap. And the result then was inside-out single envelopment scheme. Darius was very confused, of course, for it. Darius fled, and Alexander won the battle. Very painful, very nervous. He barely won it, nevertheless won the battle. One more. The Battle of Cannae. Date indicated roughly 216 BC. And we see here the Romans under this very uniform array going against the Carthaginians under the command of Hannibal, which is put his weakest troops forward, his better infantry in his left and right wings here, his heavy cavalry in his left, light cavalry in his right, and the Carthaginian cavalry was actually had about the same number as the Roman cavalry, plus was better. In any case, they drove off the Roman cavalry, came in behind the front, in conjunction with the cavalry on the right, on your right, the Roman left here, forced the Roman cavalry to leave the field. Meantime, why the Romans here pushed back the center and stepped into the bag, so to speak. The center, the wings closed in, the cavalry came back, battle of encirclement, battle of annihilation, in which, depending upon the different accounts, should be Hannibal lost around 7,000 troops, the Romans somewhere between 50,000 and 70,000. You can see what happens when they all start closing. They got to change all their formations. In the meantime, you're pulling them apart. They can't cope. They have to change front and everything else. Very ponderous and heavy load. So what's my point here? Well, there's a so-called principle of war called concentration. Well, if you look at that, the Romans were more concentrated than Carthaginians. They lost. Marathon. The Persians were more concentrated than the Greeks. They lost. And we see this happening over and over. So the first few times the British military people in this, they got very disagreement. That's unfair. You've got to think of concentration. They start throwing all the caveats in. Well, if you have to throw all the caveats in, the principle has no meaning. Many other counterexamples. What's the impression I'm trying to leave you? And it goes like this. If you look at any one of these battles, in one way or another, they're emphasizing unequal distribution as a basis for leverage and success. In fact, that's what we're talking about always here. Some kind of unequal distribution, uneven distribution. In order to gain leverage. And the claptrap is very resistant. Well, if that's the case, unequal distribution is a key idea. Then, if you begin to think about it, concentration and dispersion are nothing more than aspects of unequal distribution. In other words, if you concentrate some areas, disperse the other. They're both fold under the idea of unequal distribution. That's cool. Far better, right? Yet we don't have a principal reward called dispersion and a principal reward called concentration. We'll get into that later. Beginning my erosive attack upon principal reward, you probably know. In any case, you begin to see these kind of things begin to play out. You see many authors, historians, you notice the so-called moral effect. The disturbing effect of flank attack or surprise or those kind of things, how they build doubt, fear, and all those kind of things people can't seem to cope. We don't know what it is yet. We're going to gather that information so we can sort of pin that down and see what we're talking about. With that in mind, let's push on. Come closer to the present. Let's look at Genghis Khan and boys. And we see some advantages he had over his adversary: mobility, communication, intelligence, and leadership. Intelligence, I'm referring to their intelligence service. Key assemblies. Mobility, Asiatic pony army. Each trooper had more than one pony. And those ponies were trained from birth to follow the pony the trooper was astride. They didn't have to have them tethered. So if one got tired, they just shift to another back and forth. They could go 50 and 60 miles a day, day after day, forward and moving on their adversary. So in that context, in that sense, they had much greater mobility than their adversary. As a matter of fact, up to the present time, they had the greatest strategic mobility in the army in history. I'm not saying we should go back to the Asiatic pony. I'm talking about a very broad sense, but we have to operate in the air, sea, and other kinds. Only strategic on that. Communication. They operate in very wide arrays, very spread out in terms between their major units. Yet they were able to operate in a concerted manner because they had not only messengers of courier service, signaling devices like mirrors and that, so they could work together. Plus a great deal of previous training, so each one could sort of understand what the other guy was doing without, obviously, a great deal of communication. In that sense. We'll talk about that just a minute. I'll come back. Their intelligence service. They penetrated all the way down to Genoa and Venice, totally inside their adversary system. Their adversary didn't know what they were up. In other words, they were inside their adversary's mind. Or his adversary's orientation, which you get insight sort of view. Their leadership. Under the first great Khan, Genghis later, the kind today we call you lead by general intention. Decide what's going to be done. The commanders on the spot determine how it's going to be carried out. They're responsible. Very important idea today, which we seem to violate and cause enormous difficulty. And the theme for operations indicate. Note all the kinds of things they're doing here. The idea is to try to pull their adversary apart, exploit their vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Very fast-paced, fast-tempo operation. And also the use of propaganda and terror or to destroy their adversary and resolve. And the way they would do it is an illustrative example. If they're going to take a city, or if one city held out too long, they'd slaughter all but a few of the inhabitants, let the other inhabitants go to the other city and say, if you surrender early, you're not going to have to go through this slaughter. That sort of breaks down resistance. Another way they did it was when they're going to take a province or a city and somebody was resisting too long, they'd march all the other citizens out front, so if they wanted to defend, they had to destroy their own citizens. I mean, these people weren't pleasant people. See, that kind of brings the way to go. I'm not saying we should do that, I'm just saying that's what they did. It's not confusing. In any case, their aim was quite simple. But note what I say here. Why we separated strategic maneuver? Let me give you a feel for that by looking at this next schematic. Here we have a schematic of the invasion of the Charism Empire. What empire? Charism Empire. Modern day Afghanistan area. You know, some of the areas where we got problems in the world right now. And here we have these four units coming through as indicated here. Note the scale of miles. If you superimpose over that, you find out that Genghis Khan is coming in on the front over 500 miles wide. Just take this mentally. You superimpose it. You're coming in the front over 500 miles wide. 200,000 troops coming in an area over 500 miles wide. Not only that, they were outnumbered by the Shah and the Charism Empire. Outnumbered by their enemies. Matter of fact, the Mongols were almost always outnumbered by the adversary because they still won. In any case, there was an early engagement by a Mongol detachment with a large portion of the Shah down here. And even though the Shah won the engagement, it so unnerved him, he stretched his forces out along this river that the Mongols came up one by one. In the meantime, Genghis Khan came out of the desert and sacked Bukhara. All of them came together and sacked Samarkand and conquered it. There's an empire. So, you know, that isn't much of a concentration. You have your forces spread out over the mountain. Coming back to that idea. So it raises a rather interesting question, which military men particularly appreciate. Even though outnumbered, why were the Mongols able to move and why they scattered raids without being defeated separately or in detail? That's one of the reasons why they want to be concentrated, because armies worry about being defeated separately or in detail. If the Mongols got away with it, so maybe there's an important notion, an important idea there. Why were they able to get away with it? Can we surface that or bring it out in sharp relief? Let's attempt that. So here's the message and the result. I'll let you read it and I'll comment on it. Key point, the Mongols were able to operate at a faster tempo rhythm than their adversary. Or their adversary none. By being operated at a faster tempo or pace, by having advantage these kinds of things we talk about, what does that permit them to do? They can play the dispersion and concentration game in its widest possible sense. On the other hand, if you're operating very slowly and can't adapt very much, you better keep your forces together, otherwise you're going to be what? Defeated separately or in detail. So if you have the tempo or pace, you can play the dispersion concentration game with widest possible sense. If you don't, you're going to be forced operated in a more concentrated, more focused, less adaptive manner. Let me give you an illustration of that. How many people here have read Clausewitz? Anybody? Well, in his book 8, he has a long discussion about the ideas of concentration and what he calls speed, or what we call tempo or pace. Long discussion, matter of fact. And in there, when he's talking about concentration, he laid out 4 exceptions to the idea of concentration. In terms of the idea of speed, no exceptions. Well, there's no exceptions to speed. There are some to concentration. The premier idea is speed, not concentration. Not only that, when you read very carefully those exceptions, you find out if you can operate at a faster tempo than the adversary, then you're permitted to make those. You don't have to abide by the principle of concentration. Another illustration, and I'll preempt myself here again. The British down in North Africa, early 1940s against Ronald. One of the things they complained about why they lost, they weren't operating in a concentrated manner. And Rommel was able to do it. They missed the whole point. The reason why Rommel was able to take them out there for a while was because he's operating a faster tempo or pace. Sometimes he's operating wide space arrays, other times tightly, he's working one between the other. So the key idea, if you can operate at a faster tempo or pace, it gives you greater freedom of action. You can play this dispersion concentration game with widest possible sense. If not, then you're combined. Yet in our principles of war, we don't have a principle of speed, only a principle of concentration, which means we don't even understand that idea. But the Russians, in one of their principles of war, do have the principle of speed or tempo or pace. Remember, I said different countries, they lay out those principles differently.
British concentration found it.
Well, yeah. Not only that, they were also reading Rommel's communications. Not only that, he was also in Europe when that attack took place. They knew he was there. He was a medical leave.
Did that limit the Germans' ability to maneuver because Rommel wasn't there?
Well, no, they didn't know it was coming. So remember, they had a lot of deception. They had a beautiful deception campaign. You want to read about it. And all of a sudden, this whole thing folded over.
What you're saying is that the British were successful in this case.
I'll go into
intelligence and all
that. Many things. Remember, when I'm talking about Ulu, you're not just talking about speed. Remember, you've got to have many things that fit in that. That'll become evident as we go through it. I'm just laying on preemption. Yeah, you can go fast, you right over a cliff. We're a little bit more refined than that. Okay. That'll become evident as we go through. I'm just laying some preemptions here. You'll see that you'll get a feel for it. Remember, you don't have to be, in fact, the question was raised to me. In one of my discussions, I said, well, each guy goes faster and faster, pretty soon you're all going crazy. No, you don't have to do it, though. You're thinking wrong. If he's fast, you have to be faster. If you're slow, you want him slower. You always slow him down. As long as your pace is fast, it makes no difference whether you're going. Remember that. It's relative. You don't have to go super fast. If you can't go fast, as long as you slow him down, then you're faster. Even if you're slow, he's slower. Same thing. Just keep that in mind. Don't you lose your perspective. Because you'll see out in terms of gorillas, the way they go against their adversary, we say they go as fast or speedy. They're not moving that fast. Their adversary is even slower. So you have to keep that perspective in mind all the time. Like I said, otherwise just going speedy over a cliff. I'm not talking about just physical cliffs, also mental cliffs. So you want to keep those perspectives in mind. Okay? With that in mind, let's come closer to the present. Here's the battle of weight. The only reason why I show you this later theorists drew a great deal of significance from this battle. Matter of fact, geometry just don't get it wrong. But in any case, what we see here is we see the Austrians spread out, as indicated here. Frederick great was forced here. He was outnumbered greatly by the Austrians, I think about 2-1. Standing behind the screen, he'll put his weight against the Austrian wing here. Plus, he can't stretch out the diversionary operations here and won a fantastic victory. Basically, all you're really seeing here is a more modern replay of the Battle of Luther, a single outflanking or single development scheme, more modern replay of it in that context. Now, that minus come even closer, and here we see some what I call 18th century flirtation. Saxe, Versailles, Baron du Tile. There's the plan of several branches, primarily attributable to Versailles. So he won variation of his plan. In other words, it gives him the idea of trying to get his adversary vulnerability. That plan of several branches. Mobility and fluidity of force, they all thought about it. Cohesion. Pull all these things together, and you play the so-called dispersion and concentration game. I'll show you later on how Napoleon played the dispersion and concentration game. He did it in a particular